Not yet.
Now we are.
Welcome, Facebook viewers and YouTube viewers. We're about to embark on a great adventure today on Gay USA.
Maybe a standard adventure. But
Standard? I don't know. The news is
never
fast.
standard.
The news is fast and furious.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
They didn't used to be able to talk about it. It used to be the love that dare not speak its name.
But then it became the love that won't shut up.
Oh, wow. Now, take it easy. I'm glad you didn't say that on the air.
People have been saying it for years.
Well, that was a slur that they used in the Village Voice in 1971. And we had protests about it. Well, I didn't. I wasn't there.
We have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. We're still allowed to call it that. I'm Andy Humm.
Well, we've made that decision ourselves. I'm Ann Northrop.
And we're going to start with some good news. Billie Jean King is going to receive the Congressional Gold Medal, which is a first for a solo woman athlete.
And from Congress, no less. And they're not always our best friends. Good for her. Meanwhile, you've heard about this, the anti-LGBTQ black Nazi with a predilection for trans sex is Trump's pick for governor of North Carolina. He's not backing down.
Wow. A Trump-backed anti-LGBTQ parents' rights crusader was revealed to be a gay porn star. You may recognize him.
Speak for yourself. Tim Walz is getting vice presidential debate prep from a prominent gay official.
Kentucky's Democratic governor has banned conversion therapy.
An appeals court has upheld Alabama's law requiring surgery to change your gender markers on government IDs.
One of those, Florida has eviscerated sex education in the state and the schools.
It's quite a list. A 17-year-old has been charged with planning to bomb pride events in Philadelphia.
Men who sold trans legend Cecilia Gentili drugs have pled guilty and face long prison sentences.
And the reputation of trans soul singer Jackie Shane, who was prominent in the 60s, 70s, finally gets recognition from her hometown of Nashville.
In the country of Georgia, a pioneering trans activist was shot to death right in the wake of the passage there of that sweeping anti-LGBTQ legislation.
We have a marriage equality first in Southeast Asia.
What could it be? And Ellen's last comedy special has bowed on Netflix.
And
For your approval, it's called.
Well, and for your edification, I have watched the entire Netflix series on the Menendez brothers, 9 hours.
Wow.
And I have a few thoughts.
All right, so very big and good news that Billie Jean King is going to be presented the Congressional Gold Medal. And they say she's the first solo female athlete to be so honored. The only other female athletes were included among the 1980 Olympians who didn't get to go to the Olympics because of a boycott. So it passed the House last week after passing the Senate unanimously. Everybody let it go.
What was Tom Cotton thinking?
Well, where's Tommy Tuberville when you need him? Anyway, even more than for her tennis prowess, King, who's now 80, is being honored for her lifetime of advocacy for women and girls in sports.
She really has
the classroom and the workforce.
She has stuck with it for so many years. She has been an out front activist forever.
But she was a pretty good tennis player. She won 39 Grand Slam titles And she was, of course, a fierce advocate for Title IX of the Civil Rights Act of 1972, which outlawed sex discrimination in school sports.
And women's equal pay.
And if we haven't mentioned it, she's an out lesbian.
She is. And came out.
And a supporter of trans girls and girls sports.
Yes, and she was a little slow to come out, in part because she was sued by an ex-lover.
In the early 80s.
Yeah, well, when she was still married to Larry King, not the broadcaster, and an ex of hers, a woman, sued her for what became known as palimony or gallimony.
Yes.
And so she was a little reluctant to become an out lesbian
and
activist,
a lot of it was
she
worried about the effect it would have on women's tennis. But she's been so honored in life. I mean, they've named everything out there at the tennis center for her out in Queens. You know, she's much honored.
Well, she showed up at a dinner for the gay games in the early 90s, like 91, 92, somewhere around there, with Alana Kloss, her current longtime partner. And everybody was sort of going, oh, Billie Jean is here. Does this mean she's out? Is she's appearing in public like this? So, and that was 30 years ago. So.
Yeah. Well, she's a hero.
Yeah. Congrats and thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Back to other politics.
Kamala Harris, she's skipping the Catholic Al Smith dinner in New York.
Is she? They're putting pressure on her to go.
Well, she was supposed to skip it. This usually attracts the presidential candidates.
Schumer's putting pressure on her.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
That means standing there with Trump and him making jokes about her inappropriately. I mean, you know, Trump got booed when after Hillary Clinton said she hated Catholics. You know,
at the dinner.
Yeah, and she's a practicing. Hillary's a practicing Presbyterian, and Trump is a grifting Bible salesman.
I don't think Trump will be able to resist making nasty comments about Kamala, whether she's there or not.
Well, anyway, they say she's busy, and you know the problem with this dinner is they say it's for Catholic charities, and Duncan Osborne of Gay City News did an expose on this, and the money just goes to a lot of general anti-abortion things that the Catholic Church does, et cetera.
Yeah, I think it's great for her to skip it. I also think it's good that she wants to bypass the filibuster to pass an abortion or reproductive rights law in the Senate, but she's lost the support of Joe Manchin. And Kristen Sinema.
They're not supporting her for president?
Correct. They're
supporting Trump?
No, they're doing the Brett Stevens thing. We're not voting for Trump, but we can't.
You mean we might lose West Virginia? and as if Kristen Sinema has any influence in Arizona anymore?
Well, they both announced that this is a bridge too far. Manchin says the filibuster is the fundamental, cornerstone of democracy.
What do you mean? Getting rid of it was the way they got all these right-wing judges on the Supreme Court.
Exactly. And to say that you have to have a 60-40 majority is not what I would call the cornerstone of democracy.
It's not what our dear founders had in mind.
Yeah.
By the way, Vice President Harris, in her interview with the black journalists, did blast the Don't Say Gay law in Florida. She said members of the LGBT, she was asked about feeling safe after the attack on Trump. She said, look, members of the LGBTQ community don't feel safe right now. And she also said immigrants and women don't feel safe.
And she said, and I think that's where she said, I have a lot of security.
Yeah.
So
I'm not worried.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so her running mate's wife, Gwen Walls, appeared at the HRC Minnesota dinner this week. There she is with Kelly Robinson, the president of HRC, and was a big hit.
She taught at the same high school as Tim and said that she started every semester she said this in her speech, she started every semester by saying, this class is a safe space for all students, including those who are gay. And each semester, I had to report to the principal's office for that statement. Mm-hmm. And people laughed.
Yeah. We wanted to show you some video of that speech, but we haven't.
It hasn't surfaced yet.
HRC, what's up?
Come
Usually
on.
you post that video pretty quickly. Well, if it, we'll put it in the show note whenever it does show
She also
up.
recruited Tim's football team to help with the school production of Bye Bye Birdie to try to bridge the gap between opposed social groups.
Yes.
She said, "You've all been in that one." Well, that's a little stereotypical there, Gwen. But she also spoke of the threat of Project 2025. They want to pretend you do not exist, but insisted we're not going back.
Yeah, I liked her saying that. Should we now jump into the Trump waters
Well,
politically?
and then we can say that Tim Walz is preparing for the October 1st vice presidential debate using Pete Buttigieg as playing J.D. Vance. So Walz is attempting to lower expectations with false modesty. Oh, look, Vance, he's a Yale law guy. I'm just a public school teacher.
Buttigieg, the utility player on everyone's team in every role.
Right. Okay, yes.
All right, so I think we should start with
Trump.
Mark Robinson with Trump.
What more can we add?
Well, Robinson, who we have spoken on this show for years as a monster who's shamelessly anti-LGBT in very vicious, vicious ways.
Just what the Republican Party in North Carolina wanted, because they voted for him overwhelmingly.
Well, and if we knew about him, they certainly knew about him, and
that's what they wanted.
Why this is suddenly hitting the headlines is a question. But it was this revelation of his statements on a porn site that finally brought him into the national headlines. He says it wasn't him.
Oh, please, come on. He was a self-proclaimed black Nazi who wants slavery back and would like to own some slaves. And despite his virulent transphobia, he loved transgender porn.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have to say, here's what we're adding. CNN pulled punches on this. They held back the more salacious revelations in this thing.
Yeah.
Now, Trump has called Robinson greater than Martin Luther King Jr., but most stories have omitted what Robinson said in this revelation. He called Dr. King, based on what J. Edgar Hoover said, Martin Lucifer Coon. That's what he said. This is the way, he's a racist dog. So anyway, he's going down, but the question is how it's going to affect Trump.
Well,
who has not rescinded his endorsement.
He also likes to use the word fag a lot. He throws that around a lot in everything he says. Yeah, well, we'd like to think that this will disempower Trump in North Carolina, and Kamala will have a chance to grab the state. Robinson is not the only person like this running for office in North Carolina. There's also this Michelle Morrow.
We should also mention before we leave Robinson, most of his campaign staff has quit already.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
And Bill Lee, the governor of Tennessee, who's the head of the Republican governors, he has pulled his endorsement of him and the money. But they've already wasted like $16 million on him.
Well, there was a little expose of how the Republican Governors Association, funded by major corporations all over the United States, has been funding Mark Robinson.
Yes.
And when that became public, the Republican Governors Association pulled its funding from Robinson, thereby trying to let the corporations off the hook. Then there's Michelle Morrow, who is running in North Carolina for superintendent of public instruction.
Yeah, it's a horror show.
She says the plus in LGBTQ plus is meant to indicate inclusion of pedophiles.
Oh, I always thought it was like the cross of Jesus.
You would be mistaken, according to Michelle. So they got quite a lineup in North Carolina, which, is sometimes a very progressive place and sometimes not, as is true.
They have
of
a
most
Democratic
places.
governor, but they have a veto-proof Republican legislature.
A couple of great statements from Trump this week. He said, all critics of the Supreme Court should be jailed.
Well, what else did he do?
He
claimed he got the Teamsters endorsement. They're neutral. He reiterated that Harris even supports free sex change operations for illegal aliens in detention. He's just stoking hate, but that issue...
Well, he's just lying every day, all day. Every single thing he says is a lie.
Right.
Including, I'll protect women, you'll be safe, you'll be happy.
Oh, it's insane.
You won't have to think about abortion.
But he wants to not tax my Social Security benefits. Of course, everything is about giveaways. He's like a huckster. Yeah, Oprah, who is supporting Kamala. House and Senate Republicans and Trump are looking to repeal parts of the Inflation Reduction Act and the ACA, cutting provisions that protect access to care and more affordable prescription drugs, ending protections for people with pre-existing conditions. They want to stop Medicare from negotiating lower drug prices. Isn't that enough for you to stop, even thinking of voting for him?
Oh, no, I love him.
But another contender for Trump's Secretary of Education is anti-LGBTQ parents' rights crusader Corey DeAngelis, who regularly goes on Fox and right-wing conferences fighting the woke mind virus and any discussions of gay or trans people in schools.
This is the book he wrote, The Parent Revolution, blurbed by Trump.
Right.
Corey DeAngelis is a fighter for parental rights. His new book is a great guide to help moms and dads take back control of their children's education.
The problem, but maybe not for Trump, next slide, is that DeAngelis is a gay porn star named Seth Rose, seen on the website Gay Hoopla, one I don't know, in which he won, in one of his famous films, is winning a jerk-off contest with 3 other guys. He's been a senior fellow at the right-wing American Federation for Children.
Not anymore.
They're putting him on leave.
Yeah.
But at least this guy has a skill that he can go back to if he's abandoned by the right wing. And look, put that other slide up. This is where he's supposed to be. I don't think he'll be there on September 29th. I don't know about this. Rescue the Republic, join the resistance.org. What a crew. They've got people there like Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., Russell Brand, Charlie Kirk, Rob Schneider. These are all like right-wing nuts. And that's what he's supposed to speak at. His picture is up there with them.
What a lineup.
All right. Should we go to Long Island?
Yes.
Well, this is a critical House race. It's the southern part of Nassau County, where I'm from. The Republican incumbent, Anthony D'Esposito, did I say it right?
That's the way a constituent says it in an ad.
Anthony was exposed for giving part-time or no-show jobs to his lover and his fiance's daughter. So he's got a fiance that he lives with and a lover. Follow this. These are violations of House ethics rules. This is a guy who was cheating on his live-in lover with a woman he hired. And his affair with...
to be clear, it's the hiring that's against the ethics rules, not the sex.
No. You can screw around all you want. And his affair with this woman broke up her marriage. Now, Laura Gillen is the Democrat in this race who lost the normally Democratic district by just 3.6 points in 2022.
Oh, this was the massacre of 22 where Democrats
she lost very
all the
narrowly.
seats.
A seat had been held by Democrats for about 25 years. But the vote always went up in a presidential year. So I have confidence that, and she's leading in the polls.
Well, Democrats in New York have awakened somewhat to the fact that they lost the House by losing Democratic seats in New York State. So they're supposedly concentrating on getting them back and making that part of winning the House back.
She's the best shot at that. And in Kentucky, Democratic leaders from Governor Beshear on down are not hesitating to call for the resignation of Louisville Representative Daniel Grossberg following multiple allegations of inappropriate behavior with women. The Democratic caucus expelled him. Grossberg was also given a lifetime ban from a strip club where he was apparently inappropriately touching a dancer. Says he'll try to learn to reduce his impulsive behavior.
I would think you'd just get a warning for touching a dancer.
I don't know, but he's not, I guess it's how you do it. He's not resigning.
And continuing down the list of miscreants in office, Bernie Moreno.
Yeah.
Actually, he's not in office at the moment unless he's in the state legislature. But he's running for Senate in Ohio against our hero, Sherrod Brown.
Democrat, yeah.
Yes. And Sherrod Brown always has an uphill fight because Ohio is just more and more Republican. But he is a beloved character there and has at least a fighting chance this time around, especially when Bernie Moreno, his opponent, comes out and tells an audience, you know, I don't know why the Democrats are so fixated on abortion. It's like all they care about is abortion. And especially,
it's a little crazy.
It is. It's a little crazy. And especially like women over 50. Why are they concerned about abortion?
So Nikki Haley posts on X, are you trying to lose the election? Just asking for a friend.
Well, just to be clear, in case there's any question in anyone's mind, everyone is concerned about abortion.
I'm concerned about it.
Because it's about freedom and autonomy and people's right to make their own decisions about their lives.
You should be a surrogate for the Harris campaign.
Well, you know that my specialty is simplifying everything. So I will take that role. And yes, I'm over 50 and I care about abortion.
And in Nevada, Green Party candidate Jill Stein lost her fight to stay on the ballot there. Her people didn't file the forms correctly, and the U.S. Supreme Court refused to review it. Now, we know her as someone who consorts with Putin. In this case, she was represented by right-wing Trump lawyer Jay Sekulow,
oh my God,
a leading anti-LGBTQ campaigner with the American Center for Law and Justice.
For decades.
Which is the religious rights answer to the ACLU under Pat Robertson.
All right. Well, I just want to do a little more on bad Republican politics in Florida. And I have to say I find this shocking. Andy's a little less shocked than I, but I am totally shocked by the fact that in Florida they have local control on school curricula.
Not anymore.
Individual districts could decide on the sex ed curricula. Well, the state has stepped in, and the state Department of Education has issued a mandate, a fiat, whatever. And they say, here's what you cannot do in sex ed. You cannot talk about anything but abstinence. You cannot talk about contraception. You cannot talk about domestic violence. You cannot talk about body parts. You cannot show body parts.
Can't talk about consent. So, you know, abstinence, of course, as they say, emphasize abstinence, but that means not having sex.
You cannot talk about LGBT. You cannot talk about gender identity.
You can't talk about anal, oral, or vaginal sex. What's left? Masturbation, I guess.
Oh, I'm sure they're very heavily into
at any grade level. So look, it's impossible to do. So now it's impossible to do meaningful AIDS education when you have to talk about these things. So kids, as I always say in these situations, you know, it wasn't true when I was a kid, but you can go on the internet and you can learn all about these things. And I don't mean by watching porn. I mean read responsible things about how your system works, how to negotiate sex, consent issues, all those kinds of things.
Talk to your friends. It's the time-honored
teach each other. Teach each
education.
Other. Well, of course, when kids used to teach each other, they used to believe in the Coca-Cola douche to prevent pregnancy. But that's not. There's better information on the internet now.
There's better information from your friends than there is in Florida schools. But I keep hoping that these people are so shameless and so clueless about what the vast population thinks that they are just committing, I don't want to say suicide, but they are killing their chances to win any election if this is the way they're going to talk.
Well, DeSantis is losing ground and influence. All right.
Well, we want to win the Senate seat in Florida.
Yes, that would be fantastic.
Not to mention the state for Harris.
North Dakota, a couple of court decisions in North Dakota, federal judge, a Trump judge, of course, blocked the EEOC from enforcing with the Diocese of Brooklyn and Catholic Benefits Association the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act and the anti-harassment guidelines of the Civil Rights Act. So they can't be forced to do things like use pronouns consistent with a person's biological sex, etc. The judge called it a total violation of religious freedom.
In Wyoming, the killers of Matthew Shepard applied for commutation of their sentences. They've, or at least one of them, Russell Henderson, they're allowed to apply every 5 years or so, but he has been turned down. Okay. That was a 1999 event.
And very sadly, in Alabama, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that their surgical requirement for transgender people to obtain an accurate identity document is constitutional, and it remains in place. So it's still possible to change your marker on your driver's license, but very burdensome. I mean, 2% of trans men have surgery, that would be adequate for this purpose. 10% of trans women and 1% of non-binary people. So, and a district court had overturned this. But not all transgender people want or need surgery, and it's often unnecessary and inaccessible and unaffordable. So this really makes their lives rough, because they can be harassed, they can be beaten when it doesn't line up on their driver's license with what they look like. Come on.
We live in a cruel world in many instances, but I'm hoping that we will find that the cruelty is outnumbered by people who are more compassionate and knowledgeable. Well, we have a little sign of that in Kentucky, where Governor Andy Beshear has signed a bill to ban conversion therapy for minors. That's the forced attempt to make people who are gay not gay, or trans not trans.
The Republicans are vowing to overturn that in the legislature if they can. Comcast, they're the owners of NBC and MSNBC. They donated $50,000 to Ron DeSantis' Florida Freedom Fund, which is working to block the abortion rights referendum on the ballot there. So let's see what Rachel Maddow and the whole crew at MSNBC have to say about that.
Well,
I don't think you'll be hearing about it there.
Well, write her a letter and ask her to do it and see what she says. Many of these corporations are donating across the board, incling to these right-wingers.
This isn't just to campaigns. This is to an issue campaign, which is very harmful.
Very.
In Texas, a desperate Senator Ted Cruz is slipping in the polls, and he's using his Democratic opponent Colin Allred's vote for the Equality Act in the Congress against him in ads, claiming it's robbing girls of their right to compete freely and allowing boys and girls bathrooms and locker rooms.
You know, they've gotten away with winning elections on this stuff up till now, and this is a real test this year of...
They used it last time, and it didn't work so well, and they spent tens of millions on it.
Right, and so I'm hoping that it will disappear altogether as a winning issue in most places. Happy with an interim piece of good news in the ongoing saga of the St. Louis bar that had a cop car crash into it. So it's Bar PM in St. Louis, a gay bar.
How many years ago was this? Many.
A couple.
Yeah.
So the cop car accidentally rammed into the gay bar.
Must have been drinking.
Well, we don't know, but the owners of the bar came out and said, hey, you know, what the... And the cops beat them up, arrested them, charged them with assault and with resisting arrest. The bar owners.
They're going to drop the resisting arrest charge because they've realized how corrupt the arresting officer was, not the guy who drove the car.
Right.
He's been terrorizing people for decades. His name is Ramel Wallace.
Yeah.
He left the force.
He has left the force, but there is still the outstanding charge of assault against the bar owners, which is completely illegitimate. This is a scandal in St. Louis. We're step by step, we're getting closer to justice, but man.
Well, the prosecutors often side with the cops, almost always.
And of course, we just saw the execution of the guy in Missouri.
It's terrible. Who had been proven to be innocent,
right.
And including the prosecutor in the case said he didn't do it. And now it's too late.
But they executed him.
Another thing on the Senate races, Montana is going to be tough for Senator John Tester, but possible. But now independent Dan Osborne is in a dead heat with Representative Deb Fischer in Nebraska. And she promised to serve only 2 terms and has broken that promise. And this may be a rout for the Democrats. don't run as Democrats, run as an independent. They don't like the Democratic label. This guy could win.
That would be nice.
And we're going to get the blue dot. We're going to keep the blue dot in Nebraska for Kamala
Omaha,
Harris.
yes, for the 3 districts, and their electoral votes are counted separately. Yeah, the FBI has released crime figures, hate crimes figures for 2023. Anti-LGBTQ hate crimes are up significantly. That's not good news, but not unexpected given the rhetoric against LGBTQ people over the last couple of years by the Republicans, the relentless attacks.
Gays and trans are 3rd and 4th on the list. The tops are race and religion.
In Kansas City, Missouri, an out lesbian firefighter and paramedic, Rebecca Reynolds, who started her career with the fire department quite, later in life. She graduated from the firefighting school when she was 40. She's now 61. She has been working for the department for 21 years and has been the object of relentless attacks and harassment, violence, verbal. She brought several lawsuits against the city of Kansas City, and now there is a proposed settlement of $1.3 million to her if she drops her lawsuits. The city council has to vote on offering her this. You'd think that she would be due more than that. She has been attacked 20 years of ageist, sexist, homophobic harassment, verbal abuse, physical attacks, vandalism of her belongings. A colleague urinated on her belongings.
Women in the fire department here who broke through the sex barrier were raped and relentlessly harassed. But things are getting better, at least here. At the University of Pennsylvania, they suspended law professor Amy Wax for her repeated racist, sexist, and homophobic remarks. She's going to get a year off at half pay and a reprimand.
She has tenure.
Yeah, and loss of summer pay in perpetuity. Some, including those she offended, however, opposed the sanctions based on academic freedom.
It's a tough call.
But she invited a white nationalist to the class. She said women are on average less knowledgeable than men. She referred to non-Western nations as S-hole countries, and she must be getting most of her information from Fox News.
Well, I would like to know why people are still signing up for her class. It seems to me that one way to deal with this when you have a tenured professor who has limited ability to be sanctioned is
leave her alone.
And just don't sign up.
Yep.
Leave her with an empty classroom. All right. In North Carolina, Richard Hayes, who is the new dean of Duke University's Divinity School, in preparation for his elevation to that post, has apologized for a book he wrote in 1996, The Moral Vision of the New Testament. The book is anti-LGBT and quite vicious. He has a new book, The Widening of God's Mercy.
He's a little ambiguous on this. He's deeply sorry for the pain he caused us, but he still thinks his Bible disapproves of gay sex, but it is arbitrary to pick out 2 verses out of Leviticus to condemn us.
He says God is dynamic and personal.
Well,
so he's trying to weasel out of his problems as he takes over. And
despite California's liberalism, we've been telling you about this, there are pockets of anti-LGBTQ resistance. We didn't talk about the Huntington Beach City Council, which has an ultra-conservative majority. They passed a bill declaring the city a parents' right to know city, challenging Governor Newsom, the bill he signed last month, prohibiting school districts from forcing employees to tell parents if their child uses a gender or pronoun different from their birth certificate. We told you about Chino Valley last week. So Huntington Beach is trying to order anyone teaching or caring for children, this isn't just schools, to abide by their new policy. And
interesting news from Nashville, Tennessee. Tennessee, as you know, has been very anti-LGBTQ in recent years. But in Nashville, they have decided to honor a daughter of the city, Jackie Shane, trans woman who was a very popular soul singer.
There's a picture of her.
There she was. So they have put up a memorial plaque in the city honoring her.
Yeah, her performances were compared to Little Richard, blending high energy rock and roll with soulful rhythm and blues.
She was famous for her song Any Other Way. Actually, it wasn't her song originally, but her version of it. And Elliot Page has made a documentary about her called Any Other Way, the Jackie Shane story, which has run at film festivals this year and should be available soon for viewing. So Jackie Shane finally being honored as a trans woman in Nashville.
On that plaque.
Yeah.
We'll see how long that stands up.
Yeah.
New York State's constitutional amendment, Equal Rights Amendment, we get to vote on it, includes reproductive rights and LGBTQ rights, was worried about the GOP campaign to portray it as a threat to girls in sports.
Yep.
But a new poll shows it passing 64-23. Now we'll see if the disinformation campaign, which is going to come up in the next couple of months, will make a difference.
Well, and we've learned we have to be vigilant in this state after we lost those House seats last time.
Right.
All right, in Columbus, Ohio, we lost a Somalia refugee, trans woman, Kesim Omar, 29 years old.
That's an earlier picture of her on the right, and the current picture on the left is when this is after being shot and being paralyzed and just not being barely being able to,
She died 2 years after being shot and paralyzed by two teens. The teens are now 18 and 14 and have thus been charged with her murder 2 years after the event. She was never interviewed by the cops after the shooting. Never
and
interviewed.
And she can speak.
Yeah.
Or she could speak.
Yeah.
Now she's dead.
And her family was living in a Kenya refugee camp and were not allowed to come visit her.
Right. Just terrible.
Yeah.
She emigrated in 2015. We told you about, of course, the death of trans activist Cecilia Gentili, died of an overdose in February from a combination of drugs. The men who sold her the drugs, heroin laced with fentanyl, have now both pleaded guilty to possessing and distributing the drugs. Michael Cullen also pled guilty to possessions of a firearm as a felon and will be sentenced in January, faces 27 years. The other guy, Antonio Venti, faces 17 years. They say, we didn't know it was in the drugs. And that's often the case with the dealers. They don't bother to test it. And this is why I want to urge you, and I watched that fentanyl thing on 60 Minutes this weekend. It's a horrific thing. You get these party pills, and you think it's going to be fun, and they got fentanyl in them. You have got to get the test strips yourself and test your drugs, because either they don't care if they sell you the fentanyl stuff with fentanyl, or they don't know. And that's what happened here.
You'd think it'd be bad for their business if they were killing all their clients.
I brought this up, yes, that you're killing off your customers. Anyway,
all right, international news?
Well, no, we also didn't mention in Philadelphia, the 17-year-old who was arrested in August for planning to bomb Pride events has been charged with possessing weapons of mass destruction, arson, criminal conspiracy, and a host of other crimes. Muhyiddin Abdul Rahman had been surveilled by the FBI since March of 2023, and he'd been in touch with a terrorist group in Syria with ties to al-Qaeda. He planned to go to Syria and join the group, but he acquired the material to build bombs, and his other potential targets included nuclear power plants and the Army-Navy football game.
Wow.
He faces 48 years in prison.
Well, I have a segue to international news from that. In Scotland, a more homegrown terrorist, an avowed neo-Nazi, the cops broke into his house and found a huge arsenal of weapons, which he was planning to use in a terrorist attack on LGBTQ people. Luckily, they got him first.
Heartbreaking story, horrible story in the country of Georgia. A day after the parliament passed that sweeping anti-LGBTQ legislation that we told you about, a trans model and influencer was stabbed to death in her apartment in a premeditated attack. That's Kesaria Abramidze, 37. She made history as the first person to come out publicly as trans in Georgia and represented Georgia at the Miss Trans Star International pageant in 2018. She had more than 500,000 followers on Instagram.
As an anti-government influencer.
Yes, a 26-year-old male suspect was arrested. Now, even the Ministry of Internal Affairs at this very anti-LGBTQ country said it was premeditated murder with particular cruelty and aggravated circumstances on gender grounds. But you're the ones aggravating everything now, the government is. Georgia's president, who was opposed to the legislation, but can't stop it because she's not, in charge of stopping it. She called it a horrific attack, and the tragedy must awaken Georgian society.
Oh, good luck with that. The Wall Street Journal has a piece this week revealing that Russia is working in collusion with the U.S. right-wing creeps who go to Africa to promote these these anti-LGBTQ laws. So Russia's behind this too, and specifically they were writing about the anti-LGBTQ laws in Uganda passed recently.
In Canada, a postal worker, the mom of a trans child, was punished for refusing to deliver flyers advocating for a child sex change ban from the Campaign Life Coalition ahead of the October 21st elections. 5 other postal workers followed suit, but the post office flyer was not considered non-mailable matter. 2 of the carriers were suspended. And as offensive as the flyer was, it said trans people, God doesn't make mistakes, that kind of stuff. Therefore, there are no trans people. But I don't want to make mail carriers decide what to deliver.
No, I don't either. I'd rather they could hand over the example of the material to someone who could pursue. They
could assert their religious freedom and get somebody else to do the job, like they're always doing in the United States with people who don't want to be involved with
That's right.
abortion.
That's right. Should be in touch with the clerk in Kentucky.
Right.
In a very strange and disturbing story, in Egypt, a British family traveling to Egypt ran into a real problem. This is parents with a lesbian teen and a girl, lesbian, and her girlfriend. Her girlfriend was traveling with them.
Caitlin Disley, 15 years old.
Yep. And the Egyptian authorities stopped them and demanded proof that Caitlin is a girl.
And they said the proof is between your legs.
And they wanted to examine, first they wanted a couple of male agents to examine her, and mom stepped in and said, not on your life. And they finally found a female security person and still wouldn't let her examine Caitlin's genital area, but they finally compromised by having her press her clothes against the genital area to try to determine.
Well, this is a country that inflicts forced anal exams on men to see if they're gay.
Well, the interesting thing, too, is that you have Caitlin and her girlfriend. Yeah. Gay sex is illegal in Egypt, so they're trying to prove she's, whether or not she's a girl. It's a little complex.
Skip it, Egypt.
Okay.
Better news from Thailand, where the king signed the marriage equality bill. There he is. The first country in Southeast Asia to recognize marriage equality. It takes effect in January. Elsewhere in Asia, Nepal and Taiwan have marriage equality. Mm-hmm. There are plans for a mass wedding of 1,000 same-sex couples in January. It's a culmination of a 10-year battle by the movement there.
And also the culmination of a long battle in Taiwan, where same-sex marriage is legal, but cross-strait, S-T-R-A-I-T, marriages between Taiwanese and Chinese mainland people is illegal. They have changed the law now so that you can legally marry someone, 2 people from those countries can marry if they marry in a third country where same-sex marriage is legal and that country recognizes both mainland China and Taiwan. Please.
It's complicated.
It is.
In Tonga, we told you that their new chief judge...
they have to have an extensive interview, too, before it's recognized.
In Tonga, We told you their new Chief Justice, Malcolm Bishop, is an out gay man with a longtime partner in a country with an anti-sodomy law. Now there's a couple of petitions to oust, ask the king to oust him, one from lawyers and the other from the general public. Now, Bishop is a white man from Wales, and that's apparently not just Wales, but a white man. A tradition to use outsiders as their Chief Justice because they think they'll be more neutral towards the laws and things.
In the UK, more controversy over the Cass review, the report that reported to find that there were problems with allowing trans kids in particular to get treatment, puberty blockers or hormones or whatever. The Cass review is very controversial. Well, now the British Medical Association, which is the organization of doctors nationally in the UK, has condemned the report as unsubstantiated. It won her a seat in the House of Lords. Yeah, exactly, because there's a lot of prejudice. The doctors say they support trans youth and that what trans youth need is compassion, respect, and expanded services, not this kind of condemnation and suspicion. Right. And in Tasmania, in Australia, the Parliament has voted to pay compensation to gay men convicted of homosexuality and cross-dressing over the years by the old bad laws. When are we going to get that here? We don't even have it in New York. All right. Or California, where they do everything. All right. AIDS news. Yes. Well, Broadway Cares had their flea market and grand auction, and we got a picture of Danny Whitman there on the left and Tom Viola, the longtime director, there on the right, presiding over it. They raised $1.42 million. This is a record, a very popular event and shoot. You could have bid on the Boots Cola-Scola War as Mary Todd Lincoln and O'Mary. Really? Yes. Nick Nicholson was the auctioneer, flanked by Brian Batt, the actor. Daniel Radcliffe sneakers from Merrily We Roll Along went for $11,500. Wow. All to an excellent cause, Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. Danny is about to take over from Tom as the director, Tom retiring after many years at the helm at the end of the year. And Tom has agreed to come in for an exit interview by the end of the year. We will do that. And good news from San Francisco, which has seen a steady decline in the number of new HIV diagnoses. In 2023, just 133 new HIV diagnoses. However, new diagnoses of gonorrhea, chlamydia, and syphilis are also declining. And with the new HIV cases, 95% of those diagnosed are put into care within 1 month. And 84% have virally suppressed virus within 6 months. And they say San Francisco's going to hell. They sound like they're doing very well. Well, that's certainly good news. And it sounds like they have systems there that are promoting cutting down the epidemic. Now, GLAAD, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, provoked a huge backlash when it issued a press release saying, "We've documented that HIV/AIDS stigma has gone way down." Well, from 89% to 84%, whatever that means. This is not a survey of people with HIV and the stigma that they experience. This is just sort of, what are the people in the general public? Do you think it's gone down? Yeah, I think so. What a backlash to this thing. Wow, that's really shameful. All right, on to the ever-popular entertainment news. You saw the Ellen special. No, I didn't. I saw the Menendez brothers. All right. Well, Ellen's final comedy special is out. It's called For Your Approval. Just premiered on Netflix. I'll watch it when I get home. I've been very busy collecting the news for you. Very mixed reviews for this. It's the first time Ellen, now 66, has been on stage in 6 years, and she starts by saying what she'd been up to. I got kicked out of show business, and she takes it from there. Yeah, it's about her being a bad boss. All right, but I did watch the Ryan Murphy new series Monsters, The Life the Lyle and Eric Menendez story, 9 parts on Netflix.
Wow.
Also very controversial. This is a recreation. It's not a documentary. Ryan Murphy does very good recreations of controversial, provocative stories. And the thing that is getting a lot of pushback is the idea that they had a sexual relationship, that they were incestuous.
Homoerotic.
Well, all of that is overblown. That's not really what the series says. It's what Nathan Lane, playing Dominic Dunn in the series, says, well, I've heard that, blah, blah, blah. And then they have a couple of brief cuts of the two of them in a shower together that may or may not have actually happened. It's more like Dominic Dunn's fantasy. And maybe a kiss. I didn't really think that. I thought the criticism was enormously overblown and inappropriate.
Rosie O'Donnell called it wildly inaccurate,
Well,
blaming them for the abuse that they suffered.
there are questions raised.
Are they trying for a new trial?
Always. Yes, they are. So I don't know the details of how abused they were. They did shoot their parents.
Oh, they did shoot their parents.
They walked into the living room and with shotguns and blew them away. Certainly premeditated. But there's a lot about abuse of them as kids, and then one of them doing it to the other, abusing them, because that's what happens in these situations. I found it interesting, so I would recommend it. Their parents are played by Javier Bardem and Chloe Sevigny.
Chloe Sevigny.
That alone is worth watching it. But, I don't think you're going to come out of it with any easy answers.
It sounds delightful.
Depending on your definition of delightful, yes.
I have to say, when I see some of this subject matter, given all the horrors in the world, it becomes harder to watch.
Well, it makes me want to go back and watch the Jeffrey Dahmer series he did.
I wouldn't watch it.
Well, I wouldn't either, but now that I've seen this, I think maybe I missed out. And Niecy Nash is in that as the mother of one of the kids who's killed.
And the guy who played, Jeffrey Dahmer did get a lot of nominations for awards.
Niecy Nash won an award, I think.
Yeah. All right, the New Fest, the LGBTQ Film Festival in New York, bows October 10th with the opening. Now, this goes on for a while, and it's by the way, it goes through the 22nd, and you can watch them anywhere in the country. They stream as well. So the opening film is A Nice Indian Boy, starring Jonathan Groff, who just won a Tony Award for Merrily We Roll Along, and Karen Soni there. The films, as I say, can be seen in theaters. Go to newfest.org, and you can also stream them at home.
One of the films in the festival is the big winner from Cannes, Emilia Perez, with a trans woman star, along with a couple of other U.S. stars. And they're also showing the documentary Fanatical, the catfishing of Tegan and Sarah, which is also going to start playing on Hulu on October 18th. And Newfest always has quite a rich rundown. And Oh, Mary has been extended now.
Again?
Again? January 19th. It's going to be extended for 10 years. Get ready.
It's going to be like Cats. All right.
Please do not mention Oh, Mary and Cats in the same breath. Oh, Mary is wonderful.
Well, Cats was successful.
Okay.
There's going to be, for those of you in New York or the surrounding areas, there's going to be a forum at the LGBTQ Community Center on Friday, September 27th at 5 o'clock. Out of the Closets. 1969, the founders of the Gay Liberation Front, Flavia Rondo, Mark Siegel, Martha Shelley, Ellen Brody, Perry Brass, and Mark Horn, and John Knebel. So
I'm planning to go to that.
Huh?
I'm planning to go to that.
Didn't you see them when they did this the last time?
Maybe.
I did, yeah. But so I can tell you it's good.
Yeah. Hannah Gadsby is opening her latest production here in New York today, or maybe tomorrow, at the Abrams Arts Center. It's called Woof. And she's out doing a lot of publicity, which indicates to me there may be tickets available.
Okay.
It's supposed to run for about a month, to October 20th.
We'll try.
But the best show in town is the WNBA tournament. They're now in the quarterfinals, about to go into the semis and the finals. But here's the deal. There are so many lesbians on these teams that the ABC announcers who opened the game, the Caitlin Clark first game of the Indiana Fever versus the Connecticut Sun, he's introducing the Connecticut roster, and he says, and there's this player and her fiance, the next player. And one of them gets on camera and says, yeah, that's the couple on the Connecticut Sun. One of them, looking at a camera at some point during the game, says, "I love you," to her partner. And then it turns out there's another couple in the same game, one on the Fever and one on the Sun. They're playing against each other, but they're very popular. And everybody in their warm-up clothes was wearing T-shirts that said "Vote," because the WNBA is a lot more politically astute than the NBA.
I'm sure you've had to play matches against your friends. I once had to play my father in a golf tournament. I was happy to beat him because he usually beat me.
Okay.
I mean, not that way, but, on the course.
Might not be quite the same, but
All right.
Connecticut beat Indiana in the first game, but they play again tonight. Best 2 out of 3.
So, shall we?
Sure.
Our friend Larry Mass was at the center this week with Bill Goldstein talking about a new novel from his late partner, Arnie Kantrowitz, and we have film to show you.
We are publishing Arnie Kantrowitz's novel, Song of Myself, posthumously. And it's very exciting. It's a first publication. It is a picaresque saga of gay life from the period of the Second World War through the early period of AIDS.
He'll give you a cutoff.
Filled with gay history, gay sensibility, gay lore, and Arnie's incredible sense of humor and loving kindness and warmth and sagacity and courage. It is a treat for anybody who wants the feel of what it has been like to be gay in older times and what it's like again now. It's very much foretelling of the future in terms of a lot of what we've been through in the past.
And you and Arnie were like partners.
Tell us.
Yeah. So, and he went on to tell us who Arnie Kantrowitz is, of course, a great gay activist, one of the early members of the Gay Activists Alliance. He wrote Under the Rainbow, a famous memoir. He was a history professor out there in Staten Island.
And a Walt Whitman expert, which thus the title of this novel, Songs of Myself.
And the Walt, yes. So, yes, congratulations on getting that published, Larry. We look forward. I bought a copy and look forward to reading it.
Okay. And I look forward to the Gay Liberation Front panel Friday. And more WNBA games. I don't particularly follow the WNBA that closely.
Kind of a lesbian, are you?
Exactly. An old one. Pre-WNBA. But when we get to tournament time, then it becomes more interesting. In all sports, you want to watch the big finals and everything.
Yes.
And they're quite an appealing crowd.
So we got through another week, and we're going to get through this. Stick with us. We're going to get through this period. I know we're all feeling a lot of anxiety about the elections, but you still think we're going to do okay?
I do.
Okay.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right.
Get out and work those Senate and House races.
Absolutely. On the local level, that's where it happens.
Yep. We, meanwhile, will see you next week with more of Gay USA.
Bye-bye.